Vasilevsky's numbers not as good as Samsonov's numbers this regular season, blah, 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 blah. They're similar. But when the team is cruising, it's going to be harder for Vasilevsky, right? Their defense is not as good. That's going to be harder for Vasilevsky in the playoffs, for sure. But to say that Samsonov is as good as Vasilevsky going into this playoffs is a fallacy. Because the only thing Samsonov has proven in his career is that he can win 1 game out of 8 and lose 6 of them. I don't know what happened to the other one. That's his record. Now, is it possible that he can do well in this playoffs? Absolutely. He's had a good season. Okay. Playoffs is different. More pressure. Blah, blah, blah. Right? Vasilevsky can turn it on. He turned it on in Game 6. He turned it on in Game 7 last year. He turned it on throughout the playoffs. Leafs were a tiny little piece of their entire 4-series run 3 years in a row. That's 12 series, of which they won 11. And they were missing points for the one they lost. So I look at it this way. If you're going into the playoffs and you could choose a goalie, would you choose Vasilevsky or would you choose Samsonov? End of story. Vasilevsky is the big game goalie. He's the guy who can push your team on to the next series. I wouldn't say that you can say that about Samsonov. You can only say that he's failed when he's tried in the playoffs. That's reality. Overly optimistic, again. Taking one little bit of information, the numbers are similar this year, and saying, therefore, Samsonov is as good as Vasilevsky. Look, I love the Leafs. Been following since I was 5 years old in 1980, as long as I can remember. But realistically, we're up against the best playoff goalie in the league. Not to be sniffed at. He's already destroyed us once. Are we that much better on offense now? We're not really. You know, Brian O'Reilly, 11 goals in a season. Injuries, but still, his pace, he was on pace this year, if he had played 82 games, to have the same amount he had the year before, which was, 15, 18 goals. You know, we're not talking about big-time numbers. McCabe doesn't score. There's no extra offense on this team. Sorry. We've got an upgraded bottom 6 who need to push through and score when the chips are down. For me, Cooper and Tampa Bay are going to play the lines so that they can neutralize our forwards as much as possible, and we're going to do the same thing. So you end up with, when the teams have an opportunity to play, who's better, our bottom 6 or their bottom 6? Our bottom 6 is pretty good, but Kampf, Acciari, Lafferty, Kerfoot, Zach Aston Reese are not big goal scorers. I think Paul has been playing on the second line this year and has more, 18 or something. Kerfoot has, 10 is it? How we ended up with that. But that's the reality of it. You know, and you're talking about a bottom 6 who needs to score on the best goalie in the playoffs. Now, the other part, goaltending-wise, that concerns me deeply is Matt Murray. Because the argument that he won 2 cups, therefore he's our best goalie, is rubbish, because it was a very long time ago when he won those. Ottawa dumped his salary and him for a reason. Same with Samsonov. And I'm afraid that they're going to play him. I'm afraid they're going to play him at home, and he's going to get shelled like he has throughout 2023. the regular season does not equal the playoffs. Maybe he comes up big. I personally think he's one of our biggest chances if he was playing as he did in November, December, when everyone said, dude, this is a genius. And I said, you're not going to say that in April. You know. So I'm afraid they're going to play him out of stubbornness, because if there's one thing Kyle Dubas and Keefe are, it's stubborn. See Justin Hall. And I'm afraid he's going to get shelled, and that he's not on form, and that, think of that last thing. The problem is when we win a game, people's perception and attitudes and what they think is completely different from when we lose. And you might think like, oh, well, that makes sense because we won. Oh, that makes sense because we lost. No, listen. Wall was shelled in that game. And he had a big game, and he's a really good young goalie. And it's a shame to see him get shelled. If they shell us, and we allow our team, our great defense that everyone goes on about, allows Tampa to shell Murray, that's a loss. Unless he suddenly turns around. Maybe he's resting like Tampa. I don't know. But 4+ goals, and you're going to turn around and score 4+ against Vasilevsky? Don't think so. Don't think so. So what do? Samsonov has been good on the road. Good at home, not good on the road. He's been 500 on the road or less. He's been very good at home. So if you strategically take Samsonov out of one of the home games and put Murray in and he loses, you've now, if they do, well then maybe they'll just play Samsonov at home. I hope they do. But if they do it, if they put Murray in at home, you've now lost the game. And I think the deeper the series goes, the greater chance Vasilevsky steals games. Game 5, 6, and 7. You've already given one up. You go back to Tampa, you're going to beat Vasilevsky in Tampa. Who are we going to play away? So maybe we play Murray away. For me, I wouldn't touch Murray. I wouldn't go near him with a barge pole. Who am I? Nobody's listening, just recording my ideas so that I can go back and say, look at the way things are. Use your intelligence and your education to think these things through. Because the rhetoric in most Leaf podcasts is dire. And the way things are thought through is dire. People just tend to pick up the same. Anyway, diatribe. I digress. What do? You play Sammy for 7 games? Could do. I think that the Leafs are the kind of organization that pulls Sammy out of the next game if he plays poorly. And I think it's a mistake. Because I think if you signed him in the summer last year, then you back him. And if he's your guy, you back him. And you say, no, we're going with you. And get back in there and play your game. Because that's what we bloody signed you to do. I wouldn't say that with Murray, because it's just been garbage. But Samsonov can play well, right? Like he has the whole year. What happens if you put Wall in net after a Samsonov loss? And Wall kills it like he can. Super impressive goalie so far. Do you keep going with him? Or do you do the Maple Leaf thing and put Samsonov back in net? And Samsonov thinks, oh, well, I had a rubbish game and they took me out. Wall's better than me. Look, he just won a game. Oh, maybe I'm not that good. And his confidence goes. That's what the Leafs do. Famous for it. It's kind of unfair to put Wall in and expect him to carry this team past Tampa. Although he's a hot hand. It's high stakes. It's high stakes because you've given up 10 draft picks to shore up the bottom 6. You've given away Sandin. You've given away Engvall. I mean, whatever, right? But you've got all your chips in, and now the most important position on the team, you're not sure what to do. And this is where I say that the Tampa's, Boston are better run organizations. They know who's in net and they know why, and we're like, well, no. To be fair, I think Allmark and what's the other guy's name? Starts with an S. Haven't been proven in the playoffs, I don't think. Didn't check that. But look at our dilemma. We've got a hot young keeper. We've got Samsonov, who's got a bad record in the playoffs, and we've got Murray, who's been playing rubbish and gets injured and is unreliable. But he won 2 cups. I give you, after 6 years, Kyle Dubas and the Toronto Maple Leafs. After putting all that effort and all that money and all those draft picks and all those trades into building a good team, you're not sure if your goalie's good enough. You know Murray's unreliable, and then you've got a young keeper like Wall, and you're not sure if he's got the pedigree or he doesn't have the experience in the playoffs. This is why I say I don't like Kyle Dubas as a GM. I preferred Lou Lamoriello. At least you went into the playoffs with Freddie, who had our highest save percentage in the regular season in our history, second highest. I think the Jack Campbell trade was a joke. I wouldn't blame Campbell for the series. I think that's completely unfair. That's another old trope that gets brought out time and again, trundled out time and again. I'm thinking Game 7, because Game 7 is what mattered, right? Paul goes against the boards, or someone else, is it Paul? Against the boards against Muzzin. Wins the puck, dumps Muzzin on his face, and goes after Campbell and scores. On the other side, it was Paul or someone else, dumped someone on the boards, stole the puck, shot on Campbell. Campbell gave up a huge rebound, and Paul scored on the rebound. And you think, oh, it's Campbell's fault. You know what? It's not Campbell's fault. And I'll tell you why. Because our GM traded Trevor Moore, who people would say, oh, it doesn't matter we trade Trevor Moore away. He's not that good. If he's not that good, why are you trading a goalie who's worth trading him for a goalie who's worth Trevor Moore and saying that's our guy? Why are you doing that? If Trevor Moore's quality equals Campbell's quality, why is that? Why are you going with such a low quality goalie who cost us Game 7? Dubas video. I'll end this now. My contention is these 6 years are on Dubas. It's been his team. And it's his mistakes. You want to build a team, you build from the back out. You build off Sorokin. You build off solid D. And you build off good two-way players. You don't trade Mason Marchment away for Malgin. You build off solid players, because Marchment essentially is equal or better than Lafferty, Achari, Sakosta Maurice. Better than Engvall. Why trade him for a soft goal scorer? This is all on Dubas. And you can say, any team would love to have Dubas or get snapped up, and maybe he will, because the perception from the outside is that he is a good GM. But he's ridden the back of good regular seasons in which the likes of Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, John Tavares play well in, because it's not playoff hockey. When the likes of the Montreal Canadiens and the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Boston Bruins and the Washington Capitals and the Columbus Blue Jackets start crashing and banging and grabbing and hitting and slashing, and playoff hockey starts and a lot more is let go, what happens to them? You see them every year. Shani, Dubas, the coach, the players, crying about the process. Well, I tell you what, the process is about to come to an end. Let's hope Samsonov plays well.